Our ancestors built wonders we still cannot fully explain. This video explores 20 ancient technologies that were lost for thousands of years, achievements that vanished from history and left behind only fragments and mysteries. You will gain a new perspective on human history, seeing the past not as a simple progression but as a story of brilliant peaks and forgotten valleys. How did a 2,000-year-old device predict eclipses with gearwork rivaling a modern clock? What secret formula made Roman concrete grow stronger for centuries while ours crumbles? By the end, you will see how these lost arts challenge our assumptions about progress and hold surprising lessons for our own future. What does it mean that so much advanced knowledge could simply disappear? We often think of the ancient world as a place of slow, steady progress. But that view misses the breathtaking reality. In isolated pockets of time and space, human ingenuity would leap forward, creating something so advanced it seems to defy its own era. These were not just inventions, they were revolutions in clay, stone, and metal. Yet they existed in a fragile ecosystem of knowledge. There were no patents, no digital backups, no universities with permanent archives. A master artisan might hold the entire formula for a miraculous material in their memory alone. A royal library containing the only copies of groundbreaking astronomical texts could be scattered by a single conflict. The knowledge that built pyramids and predicted planetary movements was transmitted on papyrus that crumbled, on wax tablets that melted, and through songs and stories that changed with each generation. This is the crucial backdrop to our story. The loss of these technologies was rarely a single, dramatic event like the burning of the Library of Alexandria, though such tragedies certainly occurred. More often, it was a slow fading. A political dynasty falls and its state-funded workshops close. A trade route shifts, cutting off the supply of a vital, exotic ingredient. A younger generation finds an old craft too difficult or not prestigious enough and turns to other work. The last person who knew how to temper a blade a certain way or mix a specific hydraulic mortar simply passes on without an apprentice. Over a few lifetimes, that pinnacle of knowledge sinks beneath the waves of history, leaving only mysterious artifacts in its wake. This pattern happened again and again, from the Indus Valley to the Andes. It means that every rediscovery is a kind of miracle, a voice from the past suddenly speaking clearly again, and it forces us to ask a humbling question. If so much could be forgotten, what other heights did our ancestors reach that we have not yet even found evidence of? Their legacy is not just in the ruins they left, but in the stunning realization that ancient innovation could be both profound and perilously easy to lose. The first clue to this forgotten brilliance lay hidden at the bottom of the sea for 2 millennia. In the year 1901, sponge divers off the coast of a small Greek island called Antikythera made a startling discovery. Amid the broken pottery and marble statues of an ancient shipwreck, they found a lump of corroded bronze and wood about the size of a large book. It was so encrusted and unremarkable that it was catalogued with other minor artifacts and nearly forgotten. But decades later, when a researcher finally began to clean it, the true shock emerged. This was not a statue fragment. Inside were dozens of intricate, interlocking bronze gears, some with teeth cut with astonishing precision. This was the Antikythera Mechanism, a device so advanced it would not be rivaled for over 1,000 years. It was, in essence, a mechanical model of the universe. By turning a hand crank on the side, a user could operate a complex system of at least 30 intermeshed gears. Dials on the front and back would then move, displaying not just the time or date, but the positions of the sun and moon, the phases of the moon, and the locations of 5 known planets. It could predict solar and lunar eclipses, and even account for the irregular orbit of the moon. One small dial is believed to have tracked the 4-year cycle of the ancient Olympic Games. Think of it as a portable, hand-powered planetarium and astronomical calculator, all crafted in bronze over 2,000 years ago. The engineering is breathtaking, with gears designed to mimic the subtle variations in celestial motions that Greek astronomers had painstakingly observed. The existence of this device shatters our timeline of technological history. For centuries, we believed such precise mechanical computation only emerged in the clockwork era of medieval Europe. Yet here was definitive proof that Hellenistic Greek engineers possessed a profound understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and precision metalworking that allowed them to translate cosmic theory into tangible, moving metal. This was not magic, it was high engineering, and then it was gone. The knowledge required to build the Antikythera Mechanism appears to have faded with the civilization that created it. The Roman world that followed, for all its architectural and administrative genius, left no evidence of continuing this particular tradition of complex gearing. The mechanism itself, likely a luxury educational tool for a wealthy scholar or a temple, sank on a voyage, taking its secrets with it. Its silent, corroded gears pose a haunting question. If this one device survived by sheer chance, how many others like it were melted down for scrap or simply crumbled to dust, leaving no trace of an ancient technological revolution we never knew occurred? The gears of the Antikythera Mechanism represent a lost peak of miniature precision, but another ancient technology achieved immortality on a monumental scale. Walk through Rome today and you are surrounded by its legacy, in the soaring dome of the Pantheon and the rugged arches of aqueducts marching across the countryside. These are not just ruins, they are active demonstrations of a material science so advanced that we are only now beginning to understand its full genius. Roman concrete. For centuries we assumed our modern version was superior, a product of industrial progress, but the evidence tells a different, humbling story. While many modern concrete structures require costly repairs within 50 years, Roman harbors have spent 2,000 years submerged in the corrosive Mediterranean Sea, not crumbling but growing stronger. The secret was not in more complex chemistry, but in a different, almost counterintuitive recipe. Modern Portland cement concrete relies on a formula that can crack as it cures, especially under stress or in contact with seawater. The Roman builders, however, used a mixture of lime and a specific type of volcanic ash called pozzolana, often hauled from the region around Pozzuoli. When this mix was combined with seawater, it initiated a remarkable long-term chemical reaction. Tiny, plate-like crystals of a mineral called aluminous tobermorite slowly grew within the material, filling in any microcracks that formed and actually reinforcing the concrete from within. It was a self-healing material designed by observation and perfected through practice. This was not a secret guarded by a single genius. It was widespread, practical knowledge that enabled the empire's infrastructure. It allowed for the construction of the Pantheon's vast, unsupported concrete dome, a feat unmatched for over a millennium. It meant aqueducts and bridges required far less maintenance, freeing resources and stabilizing the empire's connective tissue. And then this knowledge faded. With the political and economic changes following the empire's transition, the organized supply chains for pozzolana broke down. The intricate understanding of the lime-to-ash ratio and the specific mixing techniques retreated from common use. For over 1,000 years, builders made do with weaker, less durable mortars. The full recipe became a ghost in the historical record, its components known but its perfect alchemy forgotten. It is only in recent decades, through advanced microscopic analysis, that scientists have finally decoded the concrete's self-strengthening mechanism. This rediscovery is more than a historical curiosity. It is a direct challenge to our modern assumptions. Here was an ancient technology that was not only more durable but arguably more sustainable, using local volcanic materials and thriving in environments that destroy our own constructions. It prompts a profound shift in perspective. Sometimes the path forward in engineering does not lie in inventing something entirely new, but in recovering the deep, time-tested wisdom of the past, a wisdom that built for the ages. While Roman concrete was a technology of creation built to endure, the next lost marvel was one of pure, terrifying defense. It was a weapon so potent it could reshape the destiny of an empire, a liquid flame that defied the very element meant to quench it. This was Greek fire, the Byzantine Empire's most closely guarded secret. For over 7 centuries, this mysterious substance was the ultimate naval weapon, a technological advantage that allowed the embattled empire to hold its capital, Constantinople, against overwhelming odds. Imagine the scene from a besieging sailor's perspective. Your wooden ship approaches the mighty walls of the city, part of a vast fleet. Suddenly, from a strange bronze tube mounted on a Byzantine Droman warship, a jet of liquid fire arcs through the air. It hits the water around your vessel and does not go out. Instead, it clings and spreads, a blazing sheet that climbs the hull. Your crew scrambles to douse it with water, but that only makes the flames rage hotter. Sand and vinegar might smother ordinary fires, but this hellish substance seems almost alive, burning relentlessly until nothing remains. This was the psychological and physical power of Greek fire. Historical accounts describe it as a sticky, napalm-like compound that could be projected from pressurized siphons, creating a firestorm at sea that was virtually inescapable. It turned the water itself into a weapon, creating a defensive moat of flame around Byzantine ships and the city's sea walls. The formula for this infernal concoction was the state secret of its age. It was said to be known only to the Byzantine emperor and one specialized family of chemists. The ingredients were mixed in secret workshops, and the process of preparing and deploying it was divided among different groups so that no single person possessed the complete knowledge. Contemporary sources hint at a base of crude petroleum, likely from natural surface wells around the Black Sea, combined with other substances like quicklime, which reacts violently with water to generate heat, and perhaps resins or sulfur to increase its adhesive, burning properties. The mixture was heated in sealed cauldrons and then pressurized, possibly with a primitive pump, before being expelled through a bronze nozzle, where it was likely ignited. The result was a weapon that secured naval dominance for generations. It was pivotal in repelling the Arab sieges of Constantinople in the 7th and 8th centuries, moments when the empire and perhaps the course of European history hung in the balance. And then it vanished. With the eventual fall of Constantinople in the 15th century, the last custodians of that secret knowledge were lost to time. The exact recipe and the engineering of the sophisticated delivery system died with the empire it protected. Modern chemists and historians have proposed many plausible reconstructions, creating substances that burn on water, but none perfectly match the terrifying descriptions from medieval chronicles of a fire that water-fed, that could be shot for great distances, and that clung so tenaciously. The story of Greek fire is a different kind of loss than the Antikythera Mechanism or Roman concrete. This was not knowledge that faded from disuse or broken supply chains. This was knowledge deliberately, successfully hidden, a technological advantage so valuable it was encrypted not in code, but in silence. Its disappearance reminds us that some ancient advancements were born from conflict and protected by absolute secrecy, making their recovery not just a scientific challenge, but a historical detective story with pieces forever missing. It shows how a single, guarded innovation could become the shield of a civilization, and how its loss leaves behind only echoes of flame and a haunting question of what precisely we have forgotten. The legacy of Greek fire was a secret weapon of liquid terror, but another lost technology from the ancient world was a masterpiece of solid, elegant destruction. In the hands of a skilled warrior, a Damascus steel blade was said to be capable of slicing through a silk scarf as it fell through the air, or cleaving another sword in two without losing its edge. Forged primarily between the 3rd and 17th centuries in the Middle East, these swords were legendary not just for their fearsome performance, but for their breathtaking beauty. Their surfaces shimmered with a flowing, watery pattern, a rippling design that looked like wood grain or damask fabric, which gave the steel its name. This was no mere decoration, it was the visible signature of a metallurgical miracle. The secret began with a specific raw material, Wootz steel ingots imported from India and Sri Lanka. These ingots themselves were a marvel, produced in small clay furnaces that infused the iron with a high, controlled carbon content. Master smiths would then take this raw Wootz and begin a painstaking, ritualistic process of heating, folding, hammering, and cooling. They worked the metal at precise temperatures, sometimes quenching it in special quenching fluids whose recipes are lost. The result was a blade of impossible harmony, both incredibly hard to hold a sharp edge and surprisingly flexible to resist shattering in combat. For centuries, the how and why of this perfect balance remained a mystery. It was only with the advent of the electron microscope in the modern era that researchers could finally peer into the steel's soul. What they found was astonishing. Embedded within the metal matrix were carbon nanotubes, incredibly strong microscopic structures that scientists only learned to create in labs in the late 20th century. These nanotubes, along with nanowires of cementite, formed naturally during the ancient forging process, reinforcing the steel at a molecular level. The beautiful wavy pattern was actually a map of these microstructures, a visible record of the steel's extraordinary internal architecture. This was not accidental, it was the product of a deep, empirical understanding of materials, passed down through generations of artisans who could not see atoms but knew exactly how to arrange them through fire and force. And then the knowledge to perform this alchemy faded. The decline was gradual. Shifts in trade routes made the crucial Wootz ingots harder to obtain. Political changes disrupted the patronage systems that supported the master smiths. The specific techniques, likely guarded within family workshops, were lost as those lineages ended or turned to other crafts. By the 18th century, the true method of making Damascus steel was gone, leaving behind only the legendary blades in museums and armories. Modern metallurgists can now explain what made the steel so extraordinary, and they can create materials that mimic some of its properties, but no one has ever perfectly replicated the exact process and the resulting fusion of art and science. The story of Damascus steel is a poignant lesson in fragility. It shows that a technology can reach a zenith of sophistication, becoming both a functional triumph and a cultural icon, and still vanish if the delicate ecosystem that sustains it, the trade networks, the economic support, the uninterrupted chain of apprenticeship collapses. It urges us to look at our own advanced techniques today and ask, what priceless knowledge are we one disruption away from losing forever? The shimmering patterns of Damascus steel were forged in fire, but another ancient technology required a mastery of something far more fluid and vast. The Polynesian voyagers looked not to a furnace but to the open horizon and saw not an empty void, but a living map written in the language of nature itself. Their achievement was not a physical object, but a profound system of knowledge, a technology of the mind and senses that enabled one of humanity's greatest adventures. With no magnetic compass, no sextant, and no written charts, they settled the scattered islands of the Pacific Ocean, navigating across thousands of miles of open sea in double-hulled canoes. They traveled distances so immense that the entire Mediterranean Sea could fit inside the blank spaces between their destinations. This was not accidental drift, it was deliberate, repeatable exploration on a scale unmatched until the age of European sail. The technology was called wayfinding, and it was a holistic science built from generations of observation. A master navigator or wayfinder would memorize a mental star compass. They knew not just the rising and setting points of key stars, but the entire star paths that arched across the night sky, using them as celestial highways to hold a course. By day, they read the ocean itself. They understood how deep, consistent swells generated by distant weather systems would bend and reflect around islands, creating patterns in the water that could be felt through the hull of the canoe and seen on the surface, signaling land over the horizon long before it was visible. They watched the flight patterns of specific birds, knowing which species flew out to fish each morning and returned to land each evening, turning birds into living compasses. They studied the shape and color of clouds, which often gather or take on a greenish tint over the lagoons of distant atolls. Every ripple, every bird call, every shift in wind smell was a piece of data in a continuous, flowing calculation. This knowledge was not written down, it was encoded in chants, stories, and songs, and passed orally from mentor to apprentice through years of rigorous training. It was a living library carried in human memory, and then this immense body of knowledge came perilously close to vanishing. With the arrival of European ships and colonial influence in the 18th and 19th centuries, traditional voyaging declined. Western maps and compasses were adopted, and the intense oral training of wayfinders was disrupted. Within a few generations, the ability to build the great voyaging canoes and navigate by the old methods had faded across much of Polynesia. The technology was not destroyed, but it was shelved, its teachers gone, its students learning new ways. Its near loss represents a different kind of forgetting, not from the collapse of an empire, but from the overwhelming pressure of a global cultural shift. Yet this story has a remarkable chapter of recovery. In the late 20th century, a cultural renaissance began. Navigators like Maupiilug from the tiny island of Satawal, who had preserved the knowledge, began teaching a new generation. Groups in Hawaii, Aotearoa, New Zealand, and Tahiti relearned canoe building and wayfinding. In 1976, the voyage of the Hokula, a reconstructed double-hulled canoe, sailed from Hawaii to Tahiti using only traditional methods, proving the efficacy of the ancestral knowledge and igniting a powerful revival. This revival is more than historical reenactment. It is the reawakening of a complete ecological philosophy. Polynesian navigation challenges our very definition of advanced technology. It proves that the most sophisticated system need not be made of gears or steel, but can be built from refined observation, pattern recognition, and deep memory. It represents a seamless synergy with the environment, a conversation with the natural world where the sky, sea, and life itself become instruments. The wayfinders did not conquer the ocean, they learned its grammar, and in doing so, achieved something that our own gadget-filled world is still striving to understand: how to journey vast distances without ever becoming lost. The open ocean demanded a seamless union of knowledge and environment, a harmony between the navigator and the world. But another ancient artifact suggests a different kind of inquiry, one that sought not to read nature's signs, but to harness a hidden force within it. In the 1930s, workers excavating near Baghdad uncovered a small, unassuming clay jar. Inside, they found a rolled copper sheet forming a cylinder, and within that, an iron rod. The jar's opening was sealed with asphalt, which also held the rod in place, perfectly insulating it from the copper. Dated to the Parthian or Sasanian period, roughly 2,000 years ago, this odd assembly seemed to have no obvious purpose. That is, until a researcher proposed a startling possibility. If the jar were filled with an acidic liquid like vinegar or grape juice, the setup would function as a simple electrochemical cell. The acidic electrolyte would allow electrons to flow from the iron rod to the copper cylinder, generating a small but measurable electric voltage. In essence, it was a battery. The implications of the so-called Baghdad Battery are as tantalizing as they are mysterious. What could this ancient electric current have been used for? One prominent theory suggests electroplating, the process of using electricity to coat one metal with a thin layer of another, more precious metal. Artisans of the time were known for gilding silver objects with a fine layer of gold, and a series of these batteries, connected together, could have provided enough current for such delicate work. Other theories propose medical applications, using the mild tingling sensation for therapeutic purposes, or even a role in religious ceremonies where the mysterious unseen force might have been used to create a sense of awe during rituals. The truth is, we may never know its definitive purpose. No wires or connected devices were found with the jars, but the simple, undeniable fact remains: the object, whether by design or incredible accident, works. It proves that the basic principle of converting chemical energy into electrical energy was not only discoverable, but was likely discovered in the ancient world. This is perhaps the most profound aspect of the Baghdad Battery. It represents a spark of proto-scientific understanding that flickered in isolation. There is no evidence of a lineage, no trail of improving designs leading to later technologies. It appears as a solitary data point, a single experiment that either failed to capture wider interest or whose knowledge was confined to a small, secretive guild of artisans or priests. It did not evolve into a technology that transformed society. It simply existed and then was buried, both literally and historically. This artifact forces us to confront a humbling scenario. What if the journey of scientific discovery is not a straight, inevitable line of progress, but a landscape dotted with isolated peaks? The Baghdad Battery hints that the fundamental concept of electricity was toyed with centuries, even millennia, before figures like Galvani and Volta would formally rediscover and systematize it in the 18th century. It invites a haunting question: how many other basic principles of physics or chemistry were independently stumbled upon in ancient workshops, temples, or markets, only to be forgotten when the individual who understood them passed on, or when the cultural priorities shifted elsewhere? Each forgotten peak, like this curious clay jar, suggests that the history of science is not just one of accumulation, but also of profound and repeated loss. The silent spark of the Baghdad Battery hints at knowledge discovered in isolation, but another ancient technology was a monumental public declaration of mastery, carved directly into the bones of mountains. High in the Andes, the Inca Empire did not build structures merely to occupy space. They engineered them to dance with the earth itself. The stone walls of Machu Picchu and the colossal ramparts of Sacsayhuaman are not just ruins. They are active participants in a seismic landscape, having survived earthquakes that would reduce modern buildings to rubble. Their secret was a radical departure from our own construction instincts. While we build for rigidity, using steel and concrete to resist movement, the Inca stonemasons built for intelligent flexibility. They used no mortar whatsoever. Instead, they shaped massive blocks of granite, some weighing over 100 tons, with such breathtaking precision that the joints between them are virtually invisible. The fit is so exact that to this day you cannot slide a knife blade or even a piece of paper between most stones. This was not just for aesthetic perfection, it was a profound seismic innovation. During an earthquake, a rigid, mortared wall will crack and collapse as the ground shakes. But an Inca wall, with its complex, interlocking puzzle of stones, allows the blocks to shift and sway ever so slightly, dissipating the energy of the tremor. When the shaking stops, the stones simply settle back into their original positions, locked together by gravity and geometry. It is a system that breathes with the earth. How they achieved this precision remains one of archaeology's great puzzles. They had no iron tools, no wheels for transport, and no written language to record complex engineering plans. Stonemasons used tools of bronze alloy, which is relatively soft, and harder stone hammers to painstakingly shape the granite. The prevailing theory involves a process of meticulous trial and error, where a block was repeatedly lowered onto another and ground into place using sand, water, and patient abrasion until the fit was perfect. Yet, the scale and speed of construction have led to other, more speculative ideas. Some researchers propose the use of plant-based chemical agents that could have temporarily softened the stone's surface for shaping, a method described in local oral traditions. Others wonder if they employed a knowledge of sonic resonance, using specific sound frequencies to find natural fracture points in the rock. While these theories are debated, the undeniable result is a lost art of construction that modern engineers are only beginning to fully appreciate. The lesson is not in the specific tools but in the philosophy. Inca Masonry teaches that resilience can come from flexibility and perfect fit, not just from brute strength. It represents a holistic engineering philosophy where the built environment was not imposed upon the landscape, but carefully negotiated with it. The walls follow the contours of the bedrock, and structures are oriented to celestial events and mountain sightlines. This was technology as an extension of the natural world, a seamless integration that provided both physical stability and spiritual harmony. In an age where we face increasing environmental and seismic challenges, these ancient walls stand as silent mentors, reminding us that sometimes the most advanced solution is not to fight the forces of nature, but to design a graceful, enduring dance with them. The dance of stone and earth achieved by the Incas was a monumental feat of engineering, but another ancient artifact demonstrates a mastery of materials on a scale so small it defies the naked eye. In the British Museum sits a Roman drinking cup from the 4th century, a vessel known as the Lycurgus Cup. At first glance, it seems like a beautiful but typical example of cage glasswork, with a delicate openwork design depicting the mythological king Lycurgus entangled in vines. But then you change the light. When lit from the front, the glass appears a translucent jade green. When a light is placed behind it, the entire cup glows with a mesmerizing, rich ruby red. This is not a trick of the light, it is a miracle of ancient chemistry. The cup is dichroic, a property that modern science only began to replicate in earnest with the dawn of nanotechnology in the 20th century. The secret lies in the glass itself. Roman artisans, through a process we still do not fully understand, infused the molten glass with tiny amounts of gold and silver. But they did not simply mix in metal flakes. Analysis with electron microscopes reveals that the metals were ground into particles so small they are measured in nanometers, mere billionths of a meter across. These nanoparticles are suspended in a colloidal state throughout the glass matrix. When light hits these particles, they scatter it in specific ways depending on the light's angle and wavelength, creating the dramatic color shift from green in reflected light to deep red in transmitted light. The precision required is staggering. The artisans had to achieve not just the right mix of metals, but the exact particle size and distribution to create the effect. They were manipulating matter at a scale they could not possibly see, guided only by empirical observation and generations of craft tradition. This was not a one-time accident. While the Lycurgus Cup is the most famous and complete example, fragments of similar dichroic glass have been found, suggesting it was a known, if exceedingly rare, technique. How did they do it? One theory suggests they may have used a form of colloidal gold, created by dissolving gold in a special acid, and then adding this solution to the glass melt. Another possibility involves the meticulous grinding of gold and silver with other minerals to create an ultra-fine powder. The exact recipe and process, however, were lost as the Roman glassmaking industry declined with the empire's fragmentation. The knowledge likely resided within a small guild of master glassmakers, and when their workshops closed, that spark of nanoscale understanding flickered out. The Lycurgus Cup, therefore, is more than a beautiful relic. It is a direct challenge to our timeline of scientific progress. It stands as irrefutable proof that the pursuit of beauty could lead to profound technological discovery. These artisans were not trying to invent nanotechnology. They were striving to create an object of awe and wonder for a wealthy patron. In doing so, they stumbled upon a principle of physics and chemistry that would not be formally understood for another 1600 years. It blurs the line between art and science so completely that the distinction vanishes. The cup whispers that innovation is not always born from utilitarian need, but can emerge from the human desire to create something magical, something that captures light and wonder in a handful of glass. The shimmering glass of the Lycurgus Cup captured light at the smallest scale, but another ancient invention sought to sense the Earth's deepest, most destructive movements. In the year 132, during China's Han Dynasty, the brilliant court astronomer and engineer Zhang Heng presented the emperor with a device of astonishing ambition. It was a large, ornate bronze vessel, nearly 6 feet in diameter, adorned with 8 dragons facing the cardinal and intercardinal directions. Below each dragon crouched a bronze frog with its mouth open. This was the world's first seismoscope, designed not to predict earthquakes, but to detect their occurrence and point toward their origin from hundreds of miles away. Its operation was both simple and theatrical. When a tremor occurred, even one too distant to be felt at the capital, the mechanism inside the vessel would be triggered. A single bronze ball would drop from the mouth of the dragon facing the quake's direction, clattering into the waiting mouth of the frog below. The court could then know not just that an earthquake had happened, but where to send aid or investigate. Historical records tell of the device's success, noting an instance when a ball dropped for a quake no one at court had felt, and days later messengers arrived from the indicated direction confirming widespread damage. The genius of Zhang Heng's seismoscope lies in the profound mystery of its interior. The exact mechanism was lost long ago, leaving only descriptions of its function. Modern engineers and historians have proposed several compelling theories. The most likely design involves a carefully balanced inverted pendulum suspended in the center of the vessel. When seismic waves arrived from a specific direction, they would disturb the pendulum's equilibrium, causing it to swing and trigger a lever system that released only the ball aligned with the quake's origin. Another theory suggests a system of inertia-sensitive metal balls resting on delicately curved tracks, where the tremor would dislodge one ball, sending it rolling to activate the corresponding dragon. Regardless of the precise method, the device showcased a sophisticated understanding of mechanical inertia and directional force, concepts that would not be formally developed in the West for over a millennium. This was not a mystical oracle, it was a calibrated scientific instrument, representing a monumental leap in the human endeavor to systematize our relationship with natural disasters. The Seismoscope was born from a culture deeply concerned with public welfare and astronomical observation, where the emperor's mandate was tied to maintaining harmony between heaven and earth. Zhang Heng's invention served that philosophy by turning an invisible, terrifying force into a measurable, actionable signal. Its loss, however, followed a familiar pattern. The knowledge to build and calibrate such a device resided within the imperial workshops and bureaucratic records of the Han Dynasty. As the dynasty declined and fell into periods of fragmentation and conflict, those centralized institutions dissolved. The master craftsmen and engineers who understood the delicate interplay of bronze, balance, and inertia were scattered, and their specialized knowledge faded from common practice. Later Chinese dynasties recorded the device's existence with admiration, but the living know-how to recreate it was gone. modern reconstructions based on the best historical guesses have proven surprisingly effective, validating the ancient accounts. This lost seismoscope speaks to a timeless quest, one that continues in our own networks of digital sensors and early warning systems. It reminds us that the drive to anticipate the Earth's tremors, to transform fear into foresight, is an ancient and noble pursuit. Zhang Heng's bronze dragons were more than ornament. They were the first sentinels in humanity's long vigil against the unpredictable power of the planet itself. From the quiet detection of earthquakes, we move to a structure designed as a brilliant, unmistakable signal. The pharaohs of Alexandria did not wait to be found. It announced itself across the sea. For over 1,600 years, this lighthouse stood as a titan of guidance, one of the fabled seven wonders and the very archetype of what such a building should be. Its purpose was beautifully direct: to protect lives and commerce by marking the entrance to the world's greatest port. But its execution was a masterpiece of Hellenistic engineering that merged brute strength with delicate optics. The structure rose in 3 tiers: a square base, an octagonal middle, and a cylindrical top, culminating at a height that ancient sources claim exceeded 400 feet. To put that in perspective, it stood taller than the Statue of Liberty from base to torch. This was not just a tower, it was a skyscraper of the ancient world. Its resilience came from ingenious construction. Builders reportedly used molten lead as a mortar between the massive limestone blocks, a technique that created flexible, waterproof joints capable of withstanding the relentless pounding of sea waves. Inside, a broad, spiraling ramp allowed donkeys to haul cartloads of fuel, likely wood or dried reeds, to the summit for the nighttime fire. But the true marvel was its daytime beacon. At the pinnacle, a gigantic polished bronze mirror, possibly in a parabolic shape, captured and focused the sun's rays, projecting a beam visible for dozens of miles out to sea. At night, the mirror would reflect the light of a massive furnace, turning the structure into a colossal, man-made star. It was a dual system of illumination, leveraging the sun and fire, that served as the ultimate navigational aid for every ship approaching the wealth and knowledge of Alexandria. The lighthouse was more than a tool, it was a symbol. It represented the Ptolemaic kingdom's commitment to safe trade and its role as the intellectual crossroads of the Mediterranean. For centuries, it guided vessels carrying scholars to the great library and goods from across 3 continents. Its image was so iconic it appeared on coins and became the etymological root for the word lighthouse in multiple languages. And then, piece by piece, this wonder was lost. A series of earthquakes between the 10th and 14th centuries gradually damaged the structure. The mirror was shattered, the upper sections collapsed, and the stones were eventually repurposed to build a medieval fort on the same site. The precise engineering specifications, the exact composition and curvature of the great mirror, and the detailed logistics of its maintenance faded from record. Its full architectural plans disappeared, leaving us with descriptions and depictions on mosaics and coins, but no complete blueprint. The loss of the pharaohs represents more than the fall of a beautiful building. It signifies a rupture in the continuity of large-scale civic engineering knowledge. This was a public infrastructure project of staggering ambition, funded by the state and maintained for generations. Its disappearance created a gap in our understanding of how ancient societies planned, financed, and managed such monumental utilities over centuries. The pharaohs challenges our modern perspective by showing that the ancient world could achieve a perfect blend of profound practicality and symbolic grandeur. It was built to save lives and fuel an economy, yet it was also designed to inspire awe, to proclaim that human ingenuity could build a mountain of light where nature provided none. In its silent absence, it asks us what other civic marvels, bridges, aqueducts, or harbors were so seamlessly woven into the daily life of their age that their revolutionary engineering became invisible, and was forgotten when they finally crumbled. The pharaohs aimed a focused beam across the open sea, but Viking navigators faced a different challenge, a sky often shrouded in unbroken gray. For weeks on end, sailing the treacherous North Atlantic to reach Iceland, Greenland, or even the coast of North America, the sun could vanish behind cloud or fog. Without a visible sun or stars, how could they hold a course across a featureless ocean? Norse sagas hold a cryptic clue, mentioning a mysterious tool called a solarstein, a sunstone. This was not a mythical object, but a practical crystal said to reveal the sun's hidden position. Modern research has uncovered a startling possibility that the Vikings possessed a form of optical technology based on a principle of light we only began to fully understand in the 19th century. The leading candidate for the sunstone is a transparent crystal of calcite, also known as Iceland spar, a mineral the Vikings had access to. Calcite has a unique property called birefringence. It splits a beam of light into two rays. When you look through such a crystal at the sky, even on a completely overcast day, the crystal's appearance changes as you rotate it. By finding the angle where the two images of light passing through the crystal match in brightness, a navigator could pinpoint the sun's azimuth, its direction along the horizon, with remarkable accuracy. This works because sunlight becomes polarized as it scatters through the atmosphere, creating a subtle pattern invisible to our eyes but detectable through the crystal. Experimental archaeology has proven this method viable, with researchers using calcite sunstones to navigate under dense cloud cover with an error of less than 1 degree. This was a technology born from acute observation, not complex mechanics. A seasoned navigator, holding the stone up to the sky and slowly turning it, would read the subtle shifts in light the way a modern sailor reads a digital compass. The knowledge was likely passed down through generations of oral tradition, a tactile skill taught on the deck of a longship. Its disappearance followed a familiar cultural shift. As the Viking Age waned and European societies increasingly adopted the magnetic compass from the East, the specialized, environment-specific knowledge of the sunstone faded from common use. Why rely on a crystal and a learned skill when a magnetized needle pointed north more simply? Yet the sunstone's legacy reframes our entire understanding of these explorers. It moves them beyond the stereotype of fierce raiders to reveal them as masterful technologists of their environment. They did not just endure the harsh North Atlantic. They decoded its hidden signals, transforming a simple piece of rock into a sophisticated guidance system. This tool speaks to a universal human trait, the ability to find profound solutions in the materials at hand, to see a navigational aid not in a crafted instrument, but in the very way light travels through a crystal and the cloudy sky above. The sunstone's crystal revealed hidden patterns in the sky, but in the deserts of Egypt, ancient artisans left behind a different kind of puzzle, one carved in solid granite. Inside the Serapeum of Saqqara, a vast underground necropolis, rest colossal stone sarcophagi, each hewn from a single block of granite or diorite weighing over 70 tons. The precision is unnerving. The surfaces are flawlessly flat, the corners perfectly square, and the interiors hollowed out with a smoothness that defies simple explanation. Most perplexing of all are the drill holes found in other stone artifacts, cores extracted from granite that show clean, consistent spiral grooves, as if a modern drill bit powered through the rock with immense, steady pressure. These are not the rough marks of pounding stone hammers. They are the signature of a lost stoneworking technology of breathtaking sophistication. Modern experiments have shown that using a simple copper tube with sand as an abrasive, driven by a bow drill, can indeed cut granite. But to achieve the depth, speed, and uniformity seen in the ancient cores would require something more. The grooves suggest a feed rate and rotational speed that a person-powered bow drill struggles to replicate. This has led researchers to propose that the Egyptians might have employed mechanical aids, perhaps a weighted drill shaft for consistent downward pressure, or even a form of lathe for symmetrical work. Some have even speculated about the use of jeweled points, with diamonds or other hard gems embedded in the drill head to increase cutting efficiency, though no such tools have been found. The evidence points to a systematized craft where master workers understood the perfect abrasive mix, the optimal turning speed, and the precise mechanics needed to make stone behave almost like soft wood. This was not brute force, it was applied physics and relentless patience, a technology that enabled the creation of everything from the towering obelisks to the most delicate stone vessels. And then this profound mastery faded. The knowledge was likely held within specialized guilds of artisans working for the pharaoh and the temples. As Egypt's political and religious landscape transformed through foreign invasions and internal change, the great royal construction projects that demanded such extreme precision dwindled. The economic and social structures that supported these elite craftsmen dissolved. The specific recipes for abrasive slurries, the designs for the mechanical rigs, the nuanced skills passed from master to apprentice over a lifetime, all gradually retreated from common use. The loss was not a sudden catastrophe, but a slow forgetting where the most advanced techniques became unnecessary and then unimaginable. Standing before one of these polished sarcophagi today, the question is not how they had the will to move such mass, but how they possessed the finesse to finish it. The stone seems almost liquid, frozen in a state of impossible smoothness. This lost art challenges our view of ancient work as purely manual labor. It reveals a blend of high artistry and proto-industrial engineering, where the creation of a sacred object pushed the boundaries of material science. Their legacy is a silent testament to a simple, profound truth that human ingenuity, when focused by tradition and purpose, can achieve a level of perfection that whispers across millennia, long after the names of the artisans and the details of their tools have turned to dust. The smooth, almost liquid stone of Egypt speaks of a patient, grounded craft, but another ancient legend tells of a technology that sought to harness fire from the very sky. During the Roman siege of Syracuse in the 3rd century before the Common Era, the great inventor Archimedes is said to have deployed a weapon of pure light. Historical accounts written centuries later describe him using an array of highly polished bronze shields, or perhaps large mirrors, to focus the intense Mediterranean sunlight onto the wooden hulls of the approaching Roman fleet. The concentrated beams, according to the story, caused the ships to burst into flames long before they could reach the city walls. This is the legend of the Archimedes Heat Ray, a device that sits precisely on the blurred border between myth and plausible ancient science. For a long time, historians dismissed it as a fanciful tale, an exaggeration of the clever war machines Archimedes certainly did create, like improved catapults and grappling cranes. The idea of using mirrors as a weapon seemed more like the stuff of later epic poetry than of Hellenistic engineering. Yet the story refused to fade, passed down through oral tradition and historical texts as a testament to one man's legendary genius. Its persistence raises a compelling question. Could there be a kernel of truth preserved within the myth, a memory of a real experiment or demonstration that was later amplified into legend? To find out, modern researchers have put the concept to the test. In 2005, a team from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology conducted a famous experiment. Using a large array of bronze mirrors held by students, they attempted to set fire to a replica of a Roman merchant ship. Their initial attempts failed, the wood charring but not igniting. However, when they used a more flammable material like tar, which would have commonly coated ship hulls, they succeeded in starting a fire within seconds. A few years later, a television program called Mythbusters also tackled the challenge. They too found it difficult under realistic battle conditions, but they acknowledged that with ideal weather, perfectly aligned mirrors, and a stationary, close target, the principle was absolutely sound. The science is undeniable. Focusing parallel rays of sunlight onto a single point creates immense heat, a principle any child demonstrates with a magnifying glass. What these tests reveal is not proof that Archimedes definitively built such a weapon, but that the underlying concept was entirely within the grasp of his intellect and the materials of his time. He was a master of geometry and optics, having written extensively on reflection. The polished bronze shields of Greek hoplites were common, and the organization of citizens on the city walls to hold them at a unified angle is a logistical challenge, but not an impossible one. The legend, therefore, transforms from a simple tall tale into something far more interesting, a cultural memory of theoretical possibility. It suggests that the ancient Greeks understood the concentration of energy on a scale that could have military application. If Archimedes even attempted a demonstration, it would have represented a staggering leap, an early application of renewable solar energy for defense. The fact that the technology was not pursued or recorded in detail is itself a lesson. Perhaps it was too unreliable, dependent on perfect weather and a cooperative enemy. Perhaps it was a brilliant one-off, a spectacle that burned brightly in memory but not in subsequent technological development. The ambiguous history of the heat ray highlights how the loss of knowledge is not always a matter of forgotten blueprints. Sometimes it is about the fading line between a documented invention and a legendary feat. It prompts us to listen carefully to the old stories, not as literal transcripts but as echoes. Within their grand narratives might lie distorted reflections of real experiments, moments where ancient thinkers pushed the boundaries of available materials to create something so dramatic, so awe-inspiring, that it permanently etched itself into history as myth. And in that space between demonstrable science and enduring legend, we catch a glimpse of the true height of their imaginative ambition. The line between myth and memory often obscures the true artifacts of ancient genius, but sometimes the Earth itself yields a discovery so clear it redefines history. In the dense forests of central Germany, a bronze disc lay buried for over 3,600 years, holding a map not of lands but of the cosmos itself. Unearthed by treasure hunters in 1999, the Nebra Sky Disk is a stunning enigma. Roughly the size of a dinner plate, its dark blue-green surface is inlaid with gold symbols, a shimmering celestial chart that is the oldest known portable instrument for astronomical observation in the world. Here, captured in metal, is a sun, a crescent moon, and a cluster of stars believed to represent the Pleiades constellation, all arranged between two golden arcs along the horizon. This was not mere decoration, it was a sophisticated tool, a physical calculator forged during the European Bronze Age. Researchers believe it functioned as a complex calendar, designed to reconcile the lunar and solar years. By aligning the disk's symbols with the actual sky, its users could predict the correct time to plant crops, to hold religious ceremonies, or to make offerings to the powers they saw moving the heavens. The addition or subtraction of a specific arc on the disk's edge may have even allowed them to account for the slight drift between the lunar calendar and the solar seasons, a correction that kept their ritual and agricultural year in harmony with the true sun. This artifact reveals a society far more advanced than the simple warrior cultures often imagined for prehistoric Europe. It proves that systematic observation, measurement, and recording of celestial patterns were practiced with remarkable precision, transforming the unpredictable vault of the sky into a predictable, manageable system. This knowledge was power, stability, and spiritual connection all held in one hand, and then this profound understanding faded into the soil. The Qanats culture that created the disk eventually declined, fragmented by migration, climate shifts, or social change. The specialized priest astronomers who knew how to read its golden code, who could translate the positions of the Pleiades into a date for sowing, passed on without successors. The disk itself was buried in a hoard, perhaps as a sacred offering, its functional purpose forgotten even by those who hid it. Over centuries, what was once a precise scientific instrument may have been remembered only as a powerful ceremonial object, its original calculations lost. Its rediscovery sent shockwaves through archaeology, forcing a complete re-evaluation of prehistoric intellectual life. The Nebra Sky Disk is a tangible bridge to a pivotal moment in human consciousness, when we first began to encode the rhythms of the universe into a permanent, portable form. It represents the birth of an idea that the cosmos is not a chaotic mystery, but a system that can be measured, marked, and ultimately understood. Its loss as a working tool is a poignant reminder of how fragile that hard-won understanding can be, how easily a society's collapse can break the chain of transmission, leaving behind only the beautiful, silent shell of a technology whose soul has vanished. While the Nebra Sky Disk mapped the heavens for ritual and agriculture, another ancient innovation looked deep into the earth, not for guidance but for the very essence of life itself. In the blistering deserts of ancient Persia, a civilization faced an existential challenge: how to flourish where water was a fleeting shadow. Their answer was not a towering monument, but a hidden network, a secret river flowing in darkness. This was the Qanat, a masterpiece of sustainable engineering that turned barren landscapes into blooming gardens over 3,000 years ago. Unlike surface canals that lose precious water to evaporation under the desert sun, the Qanat is a subterranean aqueduct. It begins with a mother well dug deep into the foothills of mountains to tap into a hidden water table. From there, a gently sloping tunnel, sometimes stretching for dozens of miles, is carved through rock and soil, guiding the water by gravity alone toward the plains below. At regular intervals, vertical access shafts were dug straight down to the tunnel, providing air, allowing for construction, and enabling maintenance for generations. From the air, these shafts look like a line of mysterious craters, a dotted line drawn by ancient engineers across the wilderness, leading to a sudden, vibrant oasis. The genius of the Qanat lay in its elegant simplicity and profound communal effort. Building one required no pumps, no external power, only an exquisite understanding of hydrology, geology, and geometry. Surveyors had to calculate a slope so precise, it was often a gradient of just 1 meter per kilometer, enough to keep the water moving without eroding the tunnel walls. This knowledge was not held in a single book, but in the accumulated wisdom of the Mukanis, the Qanat diggers, a guild of specialists who passed their skills from father to son. The construction was a monumental community undertaking, funded and maintained by the villages that depended on it, weaving the technology directly into the social and legal fabric of society. For centuries, this network of hidden rivers sustained empires, allowing cities like Persepolis to rise in the desert and supporting the fabled gardens of Persia. The technology spread along the Silk Road, reaching as far as North Africa and Spain, wherever people needed to coax life from arid ground. Yet, with the arrival of modern drilling and electric pumps in the 20th century, this ancient knowledge began to fade. Deep wells could extract water faster but often unsustainably, draining aquifers that the Qanats had gently tapped for millennia. The slow, meticulous art of surveying new tunnels and maintaining the old ones started to disappear as younger generations moved away from the labor-intensive craft. The organizational knowledge, the communal agreements on water rights and maintenance schedules tied to the Qanat also eroded. Today, while thousands of Qanats still function, particularly in Iran, the full depth of the original engineering and social expertise has diminished. This loss is more than historical, it is a cautionary tale for our own era. The Qanat system represents a philosophy of working with ecological limits, not against them. It is a technology of patience and perpetuity, designed for the long-term health of the watershed. In a world now facing intensified droughts and water scarcity, these ancient tunnels offer a powerful lesson in resilience. They remind us that sometimes the most advanced solution is not the one that extracts the most, but the one that harmonizes with the environment, ensuring that the well does not run dry for those who come after. The silent, flowing water of the Qanat whispers that true sustainability is an ancient art, one we are still struggling to relearn. The hidden rivers of the Qanat sustained empires through communal effort, but another ancient secret was guarded with the intensity of a state secret, woven not from water, but from the labor of a tiny insect. For over 3,000 years, China held the world in a luxurious bind, its monopoly on silk production a cornerstone of its wealth and a mystery that fueled global desire. The technology of sericulture was a complete, living system, a chain of knowledge that began with the cultivation of mulberry trees, whose leaves were the sole food of the silkworm caterpillar. It extended to the precise, climate-controlled environments for raising the worms, and culminated in the most delicate art of all, the careful unraveling of the single, continuous filament, up to 900 meters long, that each caterpillar spun to form its cocoon. This was not merely farming, it was a form of precision bioengineering, perfected over generations to transform a fragile thread into a fabric of legendary strength, shimmer, and softness. The Chinese state protected this process with draconian laws. The penalty for attempting to smuggle silkworm eggs or mulberry seeds out of the empire was death. This secrecy was a deliberate strategy of technological exclusivity, a way to control a commodity so coveted it became a global currency, giving name to the greatest trade network in history, the Silk Road. For centuries, silk flowed out of China, while gold, glass, and ideas flowed in, all while the West could only wonder at the origin of this miraculous cloth. Then, in the 6th century, the monopoly was broken not by trade but by espionage. According to legend, 2 Nestorian monks, acting as agents for the Byzantine Emperor Justinian, smuggled silkworm eggs out of China hidden inside hollow bamboo canes. They carried the precious cargo thousands of miles to Constantinople, delivering not just the insects but the basic knowledge of their care. This single act of industrial theft changed the world. Silk production spread rapidly across Eurasia, first to the Byzantine Empire, then to the Islamic world, and eventually to Italy and France. It broke China's stranglehold, democratized the luxury, and reshaped global economies and fashion forever. Yet, in this diffusion, something subtle may have been lost. The highly optimized state-sponsored Chinese processes, refined over millennia, likely included countless nuances, from specific mulberry varietals to exact temperatures during the unreeling process, that were never written down. These were the tricks of the trade held in the muscle memory and oral tradition of countless unnamed artisans. As the knowledge spread, it was adapted with different methods and local materials. The core technology was preserved, but the pinnacle of its original, refined execution may have faded into obscurity, a ghost in the fabric. The story of silk is a powerful lesson in the dual nature of technological diffusion. It demonstrates how a fiercely guarded secret can become a catalyst for global connection once it escapes, reshaping civilizations and trade routes. But it also suggests that when a complex craft is transplanted, the deepest layers of its artistry, the silent knowledge embedded in a specific culture and landscape, can be the hardest to carry across the mountains. The silk that once bound China's empire reminds us that knowledge is not just a set of instructions, it is an ecosystem, and when that ecosystem is disrupted, even a successful transfer can leave behind echoes of a lost perfection. A pillar of iron should not stand for 16 centuries, yet in the heart of Delhi one does. The ancient iron pillar of Delhi, erected around the year 400, is a marvel of defiance. Over 23 feet tall and weighing more than 6 tons, It has endured monsoons, pollution, and the passage of empires without succumbing to the relentless red decay we expect from iron. It is not simply old, it is pristine, its surface bearing a smooth, dark gray protective layer that has baffled metallurgists for generations. This is not a product of some rare, exotic alloy, but of common wrought iron, transformed by a lost art of the Gupta-era blacksmiths. Modern scientific analysis has decoded part of its secret. The pillar possesses an unusually high phosphorus content and a very low sulfur and manganese content, a specific recipe that came not from deliberate addition, but from the unique ore and the traditional forge methods of the time. When the pillar was forged, likely by hammering together hundreds of small discs of white-hot iron, this phosphorus interacted with the environment. Over years of exposure, it fostered the growth of a thin, stable film on the metal surface, a protective skin of crystalline iron hydrogen phosphate. This passive layer acts as a shield, preventing the electrochemical reactions that cause rust. It is a self-healing barrier, born from the material's own chemistry and the patient skill of its creators. The true loss lies not in the chemical formula, which we now understand, but in the holistic craft. We know the what, but the precise how remains just out of reach. The exact temperature control, the specific hammering techniques, the timing and the process of working the hot iron discs into a single, flawless column, these were the arts of the master smith, passed down through touch, sight, and experience. This knowledge was not recorded in texts, it resided in the rhythm of the hammer and the color of the fire. With the decline of the Gupta Empire and the evolution of metallurgical practices, that intricate dance of craft and chemistry faded. Modern attempts to replicate the pillar's perfect anti-corrosion properties have stumbled. We can create high phosphorus iron, but we cannot consistently forge it on such a monumental scale without introducing weaknesses or failing to achieve that perfect protective film. The pillar thus stands as a quiet rebuke to our assumptions of linear progress. It challenges the notion that ancient ironworking was a primitive precursor to our own. Here was a technology that achieved a goal modern industry spends billions pursuing: longevity without maintenance, using a sustainable, material-based approach. It did not fight corrosion with paints or galvanic coatings applied later. It designed the very skin of the metal to be its own eternal guardian. The pillar's silent endurance is a profound lesson in humility and preservation. It urges us to look beyond the blueprint to the unwritten knowledge, the tacit skills that turn a formula into a masterpiece. In an age where we digitize everything, the Iron Pillar of Delhi reminds us that some of humanity's most sophisticated understandings are not stored on servers, but in the memory of fire and hand, a memory that can grow cold if we do not tend it. This artifact does not ask for worship, it asks a simple, pressing question. What indispensable crafts do we practice today that, without care, might become mysteries to the engineers of the future? The enduring iron of Delhi speaks to a mastery of materials, but another civilization perfected a technology of pure time, weaving the cosmos into a living calendar. High in the jungles of Mesoamerica, the Maya did not build with metal but with numbers. Their greatest invention was not a physical machine, but a breathtakingly precise mathematical system designed to track the cycles of the universe itself. This knowledge was preserved in sacred folding books called codices, made from bark paper coated with lime plaster. The most famous survivor is the Dresden Codex, a water-stained, fragile document that somehow survived the cataclysm to come. Within its painted pages are not just myths but working astronomical tables. These are precise calculations that could predict solar eclipses, chart the complex 584-day synodic period of Venus as both the morning and evening star, and track the motions of the Moon and Mars. They achieved this with a numerical system far ahead of its time. While much of the world struggled with cumbersome Roman numerals, the Maya used a base 20 or vigesimal system. Crucially, they had a concept for zero, represented by a shell glyph, which they used as a placeholder centuries before the idea appeared in Indian mathematics and spread to Europe. This allowed for elegant positional notation and complex arithmetic operations. Their calendar was a marvel of interlocking cycles, a sacred round of 260 days combined with a solar year of 365 days, meshing like gears to create a larger calendar round that only repeated every 52 years. This was more than a way to mark days. It was a framework for history, prophecy, and ritual, connecting every event to a divine, celestial order. The depth of this knowledge was not the work of a single genius, but the accumulated observation of generations of priest astronomers who meticulously recorded celestial events and refined their models over centuries. It was a living database, constantly updated and referenced to maintain harmony between the earthly and cosmic realms. Then, in the 16th century, this vast library of the mind was systematically targeted for destruction. Spanish conquistadors and missionaries, viewing the codices as pagan idolatry, gathered and burned them in massive public bonfires. In a single, devastating campaign of cultural erasure, countless manuscripts containing untold millennia of astronomical data, historical records, and medicinal knowledge were turned to ash. Only 4 major codices are known to have survived, fragile refugees of a holocaust of knowledge. The loss is almost beyond comprehension. We are left with fragments, the Dresden Codex being the most astronomically significant, and must piece together the full scope of Mayan science from these remnants and the inscriptions on stone monuments. The tragedy underscores a brutal truth that the death of a technology is not always a slow fading. It can be a violent, deliberate act. The burning of the codices did not just destroy books, it severed the intellectual lineage of a civilization, turning a flowing river of cosmic understanding into a few scattered, silent pools. Yet, the very existence of the Dresden Codex, with its complex Venus tables and eclipse warnings, forces a profound re-evaluation. It proves that advanced technological thinking can flourish entirely in the abstract realm of mathematics and long-term observation. The Maya ordered their world not with gears and steel, but with numerals and cycles, achieving a predictive power that rivaled any contemporary society on Earth. Their legacy, rescued from the fire, is a testament to the human mind's relentless drive to map the heavens, and a solemn reminder of how fragile those maps can be when confronted with the storms of history. The burning of the Maya codices was a violent rupture, but the decline of medical knowledge in the West was a slow, systemic collapse. In the quiet halls of museums, you can find trays of small, intricate tools, their bronze and iron still gleaming dully after 2 millennia. These are Roman surgical instruments, and they tell a story of a medical technology that reached a sophistication not seen again in Europe for over 1,000 years. This was not a world of primitive guesswork. Archaeologists have uncovered a startling array of precision devices, from finely balanced scales for measuring medicines to specialized bone levers for setting fractures. There are scalpels with replaceable steel blades, delicate forceps for extracting arrowheads, and even early forms of catheters and specula. Each tool was shaped for a specific, often complex purpose, revealing a profound empirical understanding of human anatomy and surgical procedure. This toolkit was guided by the documented work of physicians like Galen, whose writings detailed methods for everything from cataract couching, a procedure to dislodge a clouded lens, to more invasive abdominal surgeries. While their understanding of germ theory was non-existent, Roman medical practitioners demonstrated a clear grasp of concepts like sterilization, boiling their instruments, and using vinegar or wine as antiseptics. They developed sophisticated herbal compounds for pain management and sedation, and their texts show a systematic approach to diagnosis and aftercare. This represented a technology of the body, a fusion of precise craftsmanship and accumulated clinical observation that was supported by the relative stability and wealth of the empire. Medical knowledge was preserved and disseminated through texts, apprenticeships, and the infrastructure of the Roman military, which required effective battlefield medicine. The fall of Rome, however, unraveled this ecosystem. The centralized institutions that supported advanced medical training dissolved. The trade networks that supplied rare herbs and quality metals fractured. The extensive libraries and scriptoriums that copied and preserved medical texts fell into disuse, their knowledge often literally crumbling away or being overwritten. In the fragmented societies of early medieval Europe, the intricate, specialized craft of the surgeon receded. The complex, holistic understanding of procedures and pharmacology fragmented into localized folk practices, while much of the refined instrumental technology was lost or simplified. The elegant, purpose-built Roman tools gave way to more generalized, multipurpose blades. This regression was not a loss of intelligence, but a loss of system, of the institutional support and accumulated data necessary to sustain a high level of specialized practice. It would take the rediscovery of classical texts during the Renaissance and the painstaking work of figures like Andreas Vesalius to begin rebuilding that empirical foundation. The designs of Roman tools, when finally unearthed, directly inspired the instruments of 18th and 19th century surgeons. This arc from sophistication to regression and back again offers a crucial lesson. It highlights that advanced technology, especially in fields as vital as healthcare, is not just a product of individual genius. It is a fragile construct that depends on societal stability, on educational continuity, and on the preservation of hard-won data. The quiet, metallic gleam of a Roman surgical scalpel is therefore a humbling artifact. It speaks of an ancient healer's skill, achieved with remarkably limited resources, but it also whispers a warning about how easily the threads of knowledge can be severed, leaving even the art of healing to fade into the dark for centuries. While the fall of Rome scattered medical knowledge across a continent, the loss of another technology was the result of a single, devastating raid. In the heart of West Africa, the Kingdom of Benin forged a legacy not in conquests alone, but in metal. From the 13th to the 19th centuries, its royal workshops produced bronze artworks of such staggering complexity and thinness they seemed to defy the very nature of casting. These were the Benin bronzes, plaques and sculptures depicting court life, historical events, and spiritual beings with a narrative power and technical mastery that stunned the world when it finally saw them. Their creation relied on the lost wax method, a process that sounds like alchemy. An artist would first sculpt a model in beeswax, capturing every fine detail of a regal expression or the intricate pattern of a ceremonial garment. This wax model was then encased in layers of fine clay, forming a mold. The entire assembly was fired, melting the wax away through a small hole and leaving behind a perfect, hollow cavity within the hardened clay. Molten bronze, an alloy of copper and tin, was then poured into this void. Once cooled, the clay mold was broken away, revealing a metal object that was a perfect, one-of-a-kind replica of the original wax sculpture. This technique allowed for astonishing freedom. Unlike solid casting, it enabled thin walls and undercuts, creating lifelike, dynamic figures and expansive plaques that could tell entire stories. The knowledge behind this process was a closely guarded guild secret, passed from master to apprentice within specific families. It represented a deep understanding of material behavior, of how different clay mixtures reacted to heat, and the precise temperatures needed to pour metal without destroying the mold. This was not just art, it was high metallurgy and thermodynamics, applied to give physical form to a kingdom's history and identity. In 1897, this living tradition was violently interrupted. A British military force in what was called a punitive expedition captured and burned Benin City. The royal palace was sacked, and thousands of these bronze and ivory artworks were looted, shipped to Europe as war trophies, and sold to museums and private collectors. The event was catastrophic beyond the immediate destruction. The royal patronage system that sustained the guilds collapsed. The master craftsmen were dispersed, and the uninterrupted, centuries-old chain of apprenticeship was shattered. The technical nuances, the specific recipes for clay blends, the rituals and rhythms of the workshop, all began to fade from memory under the weight of colonial rule. The bronzes themselves, now scattered across the globe, became silent orphans, their cultural context stripped away, admired for their beauty but often disconnected from the sophisticated technology that made them possible. Their story underscores a profound and painful truth. The loss of a technology is never just about forgetting a recipe. It is about dismantling an entire ecosystem of knowledge, one woven into social structure, spiritual practice, and cultural identity. The raid of 1897 did not merely steal objects. It attempted to sever a people from their own artistic and scientific heritage. Today, the recovery of the Benin bronzes involves two parallel journeys. One is the physical and increasingly urgent repatriation of the looted artworks to Nigeria. The other, perhaps even more challenging, is the revival of the lost wax technique itself. Contemporary artists and researchers in Nigeria are now piecing together the old methods through careful study of the surviving bronzes, experimental archaeology, and the fading memories held by elders. This revival is an act of technological and cultural reclamation, an effort to reconnect a broken thread and ensure that the knowledge that once gave bronze a voice is not silenced forever. The quiet, gleaming surfaces of these plaques hold more than historical scenes. They hold the fingerprint of an entire philosophy of creation, one that reminds us that the greatest technologies are those that fuse material mastery with the deepest expressions of who we are. These 20 stories form a mosaic of human brilliance, a testament to minds that saw the world not as a limitation, but as a series of puzzles waiting to be solved. From the celestial gears of the Antikythera Mechanism to the self-healing walls of Roman concrete, from the deep sky wisdom of Polynesian navigators to the atomic artistry of the Lycurgus Cup, our ancestors consistently achieved feats that challenge our modern timeline of progress. They were not primitive precursors, they were peers in ingenuity, working with the materials and mathematics of their age to push the boundaries of what was possible. Their technologies were rarely just tools, they were expressions of a culture's deepest values, whether it was the Maya's desire to map cosmic time, the Inca's need to harmonize with a trembling earth, or the Byzantine Empire's desperate bid to protect its heart with liquid flame. This realization reframes the entire narrative of human history. It is not a simple, upward slope from primitive to advanced. Instead, it is a landscape of towering peaks and deep valleys, where brilliant knowledge could rise to dazzling heights in one era, only to be swallowed by the fog of time in the next. The reasons for these losses are as varied as the technologies themselves. Some vanished in the smoke of conflict, like the library of the Maya or the workshops of Benin. Others faded because the intricate social and economic systems that supported them, like the guilds of Damascus Steel smiths or the Qanat diggers of Persia, dissolved. Many were lost to the slow, silent erosion of disuse, as practical knowledge held only in memory was not passed to the next generation, and some, like Greek fire, were secrets so valuable they were buried with their keepers. Each disappearance represents a tear in the fabric of our collective understanding, a fragmented legacy that historians, archaeologists, and scientists are still striving to stitch back together. Yet, every rediscovery is more than just an academic victory. It is a source of profound inspiration for our own time. The principles behind Roman concrete are now guiding researchers toward more durable and sustainable building materials. The holistic environmental reading of Polynesian wayfinding offers a powerful model for navigating our own ecological challenges. The seismic resilience of Inca masonry teaches us to build with flexibility rather than rigid force. These ancient solutions speak to problems we are still grappling with today, proving that the past is not a distant country, but a wellspring of innovative thinking. This journey through lost marvels leaves us with a responsibility, not just to admire the past, but to steward the present. It urges us to look at our own world, at our digital archives, our global networks, and our specialized crafts, and ask a vital question. What knowledge are we creating today that is equally fragile? Our technologies may be stored in the cloud instead of carved in stone, but they are just as vulnerable to societal shifts, to neglected maintenance, or to catastrophic loss. The greatest lesson from these 20 fragments of the past is to value, document, and actively preserve the genius of our own era, ensuring that the wonders we engineer do not become mysteries for future generations to mourn. We would love to hear which of these ancient technologies captured your imagination the most. Was it the cosmic calculator of the Antikythera Mechanism, the unbreakable blades of Damascus Steel, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history's forgotten innovations, please subscribe. We explore the greatest mysteries of our past, not to simply list facts, but to recover the lost conversations between human creativity and the world it seeks to understand.